Howdy ho, boys and girls. Today we're going to talk about using non-tactical weapons, the kind of stuff you're going to find in the non-tactical guy's closet all across America in a tactical setting. What kind of weapons you can expect and how we can best employ those weapons in a gunfight. After the Russians paratroop in or the zombie virus outbreaks, there's going to be a lot of your family members and your friends and your neighbors and your community that never saw fit to get an AR-15 or chest rig, but now that the event is here and happening, they are forced, whether they like it or not, or maybe they're rather willing to participate in the activities that are necessary to conduct. Right, talking vaguely. So, what kind of guns does every guy in America, every family in America have in their closet, and how can we use those guns in a tactical setting? Right. So, there's four groups we're going to talk about. I'll just go ahead and spoiler alert for y'all ahead of time. We're going to talk about 22 long rifle, ideally semi-automatic 22 long rifle with a box-fed magazine. We have hunting rifles, right? So a variety of larger caliber, full caliber bolt action rifles. We've got shotguns. Everybody and their mom's got a 12 gauge shotgun. And then we have tons of pistol caliber carbines and AR pistols with like 8-inch and 5-inch barrels and stuff like that. Right, so I'm not talking about AR-15s or AKs or AR-10s or FALs or G3s or any of that kind of stuff. Those are actual fighting rifles. Those are like designed for the fight. How can we use utility or hunting rifles and weapons in a tactical application? All right, so we'll go ahead and start with 22s. 22s are deadly out to 300 yards. They will absolutely penetrate a human skull and do lethal damage, or penetrate a chest cavity deep enough to hit the heart or the lungs. Out to 300 plus yards. They are accurate out to 100 yards. Depending on the rifle and the shooter, you can stretch it out to 150 or 200 yards. They are great and ideal for anybody that is small framed, doesn't have a bunch of muscle mass, is a new shooter, or is gun shy, right? The typical thing you hear is women, elderly, and children, which is true, right? So if you have a 14-year-old that is forced into possibly defending the home, 22, a Ruger 1022 is going to be awesome for him. If you have a spouse that was never into guns, but now she needs to defend herself, 22 rifle is going to be perfect for that. If you have women that are new to shooting and they are being pressed into like your civil defense force for the community, 22s are great. You don't have to get them spun up on holding a heavier rifle or dealing with a louder concussion from a defensive role. 22 is going to do everything you need. Accurate fire out to 100 yards, volley fire out to 200 to 300 yards. That's perfect. That's fine. We're good there. If you are using a 22 in an actual offensive setting just because you're that down bad on weaponry, a 22 is going to be really good for assault or possibly the security role, right? It doesn't have a lot of penetrating power and it doesn't have a lot of range, so you don't want to put that in your support by fire role if you can help it. You want to put that where it's going to be engaging targets up more close. All right, moving on. Hunting rifles, right? Grandpa and his old 30-06. Everybody and their mom's got a 308 bolt gun. Could be 243, 270, 6.5, whatever, 7 millimeter, whatever. A hunting rifle. Some probably a bolt gun with a scope on it. It might be magazine fed. It might not be magazine fed. A lot of times, likely, it's not going to be magazine fed. That's okay. Obviously, these are set up to have great penetration, right? So they're going to defeat what most people are going to think of as cover versus 5.56 or 9 mil. A lot of these calibers are going to defeat that cover. They're also going to have extended range if the optic and the shooter are aware of, are set up to do so. They're going to be capable of shooting past that intermediate 300 to 500 yard range. Not every single time, but stereotypically, These are going to be matched with an older or possibly overweight shooter, right? Some old Bubba, been hunting for forever, old man and his rifle. All right. And another downside is they have a low volume of fire. So it's bolt action. So you're going to have to run that action every trigger pull. And a lot of times it's not even going to be magazine fed. So then every 4 or 5 shots, whatever it is, you're going to have to stop and physically top load more rounds in. That's okay. On a patrol, these can be used in a DMR setting, obviously, and they're great for being set up in stationary support by fire, which also goes with the stereotypical person that'll be paired with this rifle. And again, in a more stationary position, once you get there, LPOPs, lookout positions, observation positions, listening posts, observation posts. Right, so placing that gun in areas where it's going to have you be able to utilize its defeating of cover and its accuracy and its increased range, and it's not going to be a big deal that has a low volume of fire, right? So we don't want to bring our bolt gun on the assault when we're going to clear rooms on a raid or whatever. We don't want the bolt gun to be on the room clearing team. All right. Okay, next on the list is 12 gauge. Right, this covers a wide variety, right? You could have some funky, like, double tube Keltec 12 gauge all the way to like a bird hunting 12 gauge with a 26 or 28 inch barrel. And even that, a bird hunting 12 gauge could be a double barrel 12 gauge, it could be a semi-automatic 12 gauge, could be a pump 12 gauge. So we're just going to kind of generally talk about 12 gauges in general without going overly specific on each specific variety of 12 gauge itself. Out to 100 yards, 12 gauge, even with buckshot, is 100% lethal. With a slug, they're accurate out to 100, 150 yards. But if you are not concerned about collateral damage, raining buckshot down on an enemy team at 100 yards with a 12 gauge is absolutely going to have positive effects for you. If you are worried about collateral damage, you can utilize buckshot out to 30 to 50 yards, depending on the exact rifle or the exact shotgun and ammunition you're using. Go pattern your stuff to make sure. They're super duper versatile. You can use them for hunting. You can use them for breaching. Backtrack. You can use them for hunting everything from a squirrel all the way up to an elk or a grizzly bear, right? Anything in North America can be hunted with a 12 gauge if it has the proper load. It's absolutely devastating in fighting up close, right? If you blast somebody at 10 yards with double-aught buck, they're done. There's no saving that person 9 times out of 10. You can use them for breaching. You can use them for less than lethal or signaling rounds like flare rounds and stuff like that. Drones are great in the modern battlefield for anti-drone use, right? So if you do have some guy that's got some semi-automatic 28-inch barrel duck gun and he's been slaying ducks his whole life, just let that dude keep doing his thing. Hey, instead of shooting ducks, you now shoot drones. Just run. Have some number 4 buckshot or something like that in case we need to use you for people, but otherwise you just keep running the same duck loads. You keep doing everything the same. You just shoot robot ducks now. All right. 12 gauges can absolutely be used on the assault, especially if they are more towards the security police style 12 gauge, less towards the bird hunting 12 gauge. And then on the opposite end of that, the 12 gauges that are more on the bird hunting side of that can be used for security in anti-drone positions. So no matter what style of 12 gauge you have, it could either be absolutely used on the assault or absolutely used anti-drone in a security position. All right. Last thing we're going to talk about is pistol caliber carbines and super short barreled AR pistols. ARP. The ARP, dog. I got that strap on me. The ARP. All right. So these do have a high volume of fire. They do take box fed magazine, whatever. I'm saying too many words. You know what I'm saying. They take mags. Nice 20, 30 round mags. Typically, if it's a pistol caliber carbine, because it's 9mm, it's going to have a reduced range, right? It's going to be good. You can get hits out to 200 or 300 yards. Then we're starting to talk about what your terminal ballistics are on target. Same exact thing for the ARPs that are super short, right? 5.56 out of a 5-inch or 8-inch barrel, even a 10-inch barrel, you can absolutely get hits out to like 200-300 yards. But then we're talking about what are the terminal ballistics. We're really super effective inside of 100, right? So these guns are going to be great on the assault. Not so much in a support by fire, 9 times out of 10, where we're likely shooting over 100 yards. All right. Now, when you're running all of these different calibers and weapon systems and magazine patterns, you're going to run into logistic issues, which traditionally has absolutely destroyed militaries in the long term, right? So, if you have this hodgepodge of systems, and it's for the offensive units, not just for the local defensive team, you're going to want to use your hodgepodge of weapon systems to get some actual quality rifles that are all running the same caliber and the same magazine type, or at least, streamline it a little bit. So use what you have to get what you need. Yep. So those are what we can expect. 22s, hunting rifles, 12 gauges, and a bunch of silly ARPs and pistol caliber carbines. So think about how you're going to employ those in a tactical setting, because likely if anything ever pops off, you're going to have a bunch of people, a bunch of neighbors coming knocking on your door holding some silly rifle saying, "Put me in, coach. Let's get it."